Welcome back once again to the channel. In today's video, we want to know how CorelDraw designing software operates. This video is particularly for beginners who are just starting their design journey and want to know how CorelDraw designing software works. It is going to be a step-by-step guide. We are going to look at all the tools that are necessary. Alright, tools that are needed for you to actually get professional design works now. Most designers often don't know how to bring their creative thoughts into reality because certain tools that are needed in performing certain functions on their design, they do not know how to use these tools. And so that is what we are going to do today. We want to get to know the interface. It's basically being new to the software, and so what am I to do if I download CorelDraw designing software for the first time, having it installed on my laptop or PC? Alright, what do I need to do? You are all confused and you need guidance, you need direction on how the software works. So this video is basically for anyone who is new to CorelDraw and wants to get to know the interface, the tools, and the various functions it performs. So now let's get right into it. Alright, so this very interface is where you have your recent works worked on. If you are new to the software, you won't have any new design works being in this particular place because you haven't really worked on any previous designs. But because I have been using the software for a while, I have some design works right here. Now this plus icon is simply letting you know that if you want to create a new document, you can go ahead and click on the plus icon or possibly use the shortcut Control N. Alright, use the shortcut Control N. So anytime you want to start work using CorelDraw, you need to create a new document. You need to create a new document. So you are just going to go ahead, click on the plus icon, and then from there it opens up the work area where we have the various tools we'll be using for any kind of design. Alright, these are tools that I basically use all the time. These are tools that I consistently, alright, all the time, I use them in working on designs. Okay, so just follow through, sit tight, and we are going to learn a lot. Having clicked on the plus icon, it opens up a dialog box for you. It opens up a dialog box for you. Now this dialog box, it allows you to specify the name of the design, alright, the document you are coming to work on, if it's a flyer, if it's a banner design, if it's a brochure, business card, a logo design. It allows you to specify the name that you prefer to give to your design work. That is the general category we have here. Then we have the preset as well. Number of pages, page view, primary color mode. Now with the primary color mode, what it does is that if you are designing for social media sharing purposes, alright, for digital purposes, we always use RGB color mode. Alright, we always use RGB color mode. But if it is for printing purpose, if it's a print design you are working on, for instance, a banner design work which is to be printed, then we use the CMYK mode. Alright, so we use the CMYK for print designs, we use RGB for digital and social media artworks. Now the number of pages, you can sometimes work on book designs. You can work on brochures. These are designs that require number of pages. Okay, these are designs that require number of pages. And so if you are working on a book with pages of 40, then here you need to specify the number of pages before going ahead and specifying the other what necessary details that are needed in creating your document. Now, when we come to dimensions, this is where we specify the page size per our design work. Now, we have various dimensions. Now, the very first one is the page size. By default, the software provides you some default page size, which we are already aware of, like A4, A3, A2, envelope check, all right, business card. These are all page sizes that are already inbuilt in the software. And so you don't really have to go and take measurements of this kind of artworks whenever you are requested to work on any. But when you choose custom, it means that this time you are specifying the height and the width of your design. So the custom is basically saying that this time you have taken the measurements, or you've been provided the measurements, okay, from your clients or who you are working on the design for. And so this is what you are going to specify in working on the design. Now you need to also consider the page dimension types. We have inches, we have millimeters, we have pixels, points, okay, we have pixels. There are a lot of page dimension types. Now, if you are someone who is familiar with design works, normally with social media artworks, digital artworks, we use inches, sometimes we use millimeters. All these have their various dimensions in terms of their width and height. All right. Now, if you are working on a banner design, mostly we use feet page dimension type in working on banner designs. That is with the page dimension type. So we'll go ahead with inches for the purpose of this tutorial. Now with the orientation here, it's basically asking of whether a portrait or landscape. If you are using a perfect square, that is the width and height being the same, it means that the orientation doesn't really matter, because if it's landscape, it is still not going to reflect the changes. If it's portrait, it is still not going to reflect the changes. Now with the resolution, always leave it at 300. The resolution deals with the pixels, okay, the blocks that come together in actually forming the image or objects that we see. Okay, when you zoom in on an object, you realize that there seem to be some blocks coming together in forming that object. But when you zoom out, then it's all the boxes coming together gives you a perfect image. So that is with the resolution. So per CorelDraw, it is advisable to always leave it at 300. Now when done with that, you go ahead and click on OK. So you are just going to give a name to this design work, that is Introduction to CorelDraw. All right. Then we go ahead and click on OK. That is when you are done specifying the various general instructions required, the dimensions, the color settings. You go ahead and click on OK. So we'll give this 5 and the height also 5. So it means we are going to end up having a perfect square. Good. Then click on OK. Now when you click on OK, this is what is going to appear. Whether it's a software you've been using for a long time or first time creating a new document, this is what you are going to have. Now you want to know about all these things we are seeing around here. This very bar here is called a title bar, just as any other software. Okay, this is the title bar. This is where the name of the design appears. And then we also have the various functional icons for closing, minimizing, and maximizing your window. Now, this very bar is called the menu bar. This very bar is called the menu bar. They all have their various functions. The first one, we have file, we have edit, we have view, layout, object, effects, bitmap, text, table, and the list goes on. This very next bar is called the standard toolbar. Now we have toolbar, but this particular bar here is called the standard toolbar. Let's take note of this. It's called the standard toolbar. So here we have creating a new document. If you want to create a new document, you simply click on the first one. Then we have open. If you want to open an existing document which you have created, you simply use this option. If you want to open a document which you have saved in your cloud storage, we use this option for that. If you want to save a document in your cloud storage that is online, it means you need internet connectivity. Then we use this option for doing that. All right, very good. Now, this very next bar here is called a property bar. This bar here is called a property bar. Now, the property bar, every tool that we use in CorelDraw has its own property bar. What the property bar does is that it provides you additional functions of the tools you select in working on a design. It provides you additional functions of the tools you select anytime you are working on designs. It just provides you that additional function per the tools you select. All right. So the very first item we have here is the page size. Okay, so we still have the page size here. If you are working and you notice that probably you should have used a different page size far from what you are already working on, you can just go here and change it. Okay, you could see the difference, right? That is with what? The custom. This very bar here. So you simply click on the page size you want and it changes for you. Anytime you choose a different page size, you could see that what? The dimensions also change. All the page sizes don't have the same dimensions in terms of width and height. So that is how it works actually. So this is an A5 page size. Now the very next thing we have is the portrait and then landscape functions. So you can go ahead and change this to landscape, portrait, landscape, portrait. All right. So that is with the property bar. Now, when we come to this very left side, we have what we refer to as a toolbar. The toolbar is one of the most important aspects of this software. Every design you are going to work on requires the use of the toolbar in terms of creating shapes, in terms of changing colors, in terms of fading, opacity, in terms of adding shadow, text. Everything requires the use of the toolbar. So when we start learning about each of them, kindly pay attention, follow through, and at the end of the day, you realize that they are quite simple to use. All right, they are quite simple to use. All right, now when we come to the very right hand side, we have what we call color palettes. These are called color palettes. Any color you want in applying on a on an object, you simply select the object, come over here and click on the color, and then it applies to the object. Now this space here, this space we have here is called the drawing window, and the white space is called drawing page. Now the difference between the two is that the design you are working on, if you are to export it, convert it to a bitmap, a single file, okay, every item in terms of image, color, text must fall within the frame of the white space we have here, which is the window page. Now with the drawing page, but with the drawing window, it just provides you more space in manipulating in terms of movement, in terms of selection of your elements in the workspace. So putting the drawing page and the drawing window together, we have what we refer to as a workspace. So the entirety of this, when zoomed out, the entirety of all this is referred to as the workspace. And the white space, where we are going to have our design elements, the design being framed within, is what we refer to as a drawing page. And here is called a drawing window. Great. Now down here we have what we refer to as a status bar. Now the status bar provides us with details, aspect, what is currently going on in terms of color choice, in terms of the particular item, object or image selected within the workspace. Alright. Now we have the navigation bar. We have this very bar, which is the vertical bar, which allows us to drag and locate items within the workspace. Then we also have the horizontal bar, which is this very option. Now from there we have ruler in CorelDraw as well. Now when you look at these very options here, you could see some numberings, some calibrations. These are all rules. So when you double click and drag, you could see a dotted red line on the drawing window. When you double click here and drag as well, you could see a dotted red line on your drawing window. Now these rulers allow us to perfectly align elements. Okay, they allow us to perfectly align elements. Now if you want to delete them, you simply click on it and press delete on your keyboard. Click on it, press delete, and they are gone. That is with the ruler. Now we want to start working around each tool to know how they work. CorelDraw, just like any other designing software, has tools from what I stated earlier, and these tools are what help us as graphic designers in effectively coming up with very creative content. The very first tool we have here is called the pick tool. Now with the pick tool, it allows us to select, move and transform objects. Select, move and transform objects. For the purpose of knowing how it works, I'm going to use a different tool to demonstrate that. So we have this rectangle created right here. Now with my pick tool selected, when I click on this, by double clicking, I can drag and position it anywhere I want. That is how the pick tool actually works. Now, if you notice, the rectangle created has some black dots around it, about 8 in number. These dots allow us to transform the rectangle. Now, if you move your mouse cursor to this very black dotted box, you could see an arrow pointing in 2 directions diagonally. This is simply telling you that you can scale the rectangle towards the positions, the directions the arrows are pointing to. So you can either scale it bigger towards the upward direction or scale it smaller towards the downward direction. So let's try that and see. So when I double click and drag, you could see how bigger it has become. When I double click and drag in, you could see how smaller it has become. That is how the pick tool actually works. Now, this options tool allows you to scale upward in a much bigger size or scale downward in a much smaller size. Good. Same applies to these options as well. Same applies to this as well. Very good. Now, if you look at some of the tools, they have drop-down arrows. Anytime a tool has a drop-down arrow, it means they have other tools embedded in them. Now, these embedded tools all perform similar functions. Just some differential changes. So when I click on the drop-down arrow, we have the freehand tool. We have the free transform tool. So these are all additional tools that work almost similar to the pick tool. Alright, good. Now the next tool we have is the shape tool. The shape tool allows us to convert the appearance, the shape of objects. It allows us to manipulate the knots of every object. Now, when we talk of knots, we are looking at the meeting points of 2 lines, right? Anytime 2 lines meet or come together, they always have a knot. So you can consider tying a knot, right? A rope where you had it tied and you had a knot, a meeting point of these 2 ropes. So the meeting point is what we refer to as knots. Every object has a knot. Now this rectangle has a knot, and the shape tool allows us to transform it by changing the knot. Now the shape tool can allow us to change this rectangle into a totally different shape. So when I click on the shape tool, you could see that the very dotted boxes have changed. So when I double click and drag, this is what you are going to end up having. Let me apply color to this. Okay. So this is what we'll end up having by using the shape tool. A rectangle changing to a totally different shape. Now, because we haven't converted the shape created into a curve, the only thing we could do with the shape tool is this. All right. Now, to convert this shape totally to a different curve apart from what we've been able to do so far, you need to right click on it, then select convert to curves. When you select convert to curves, you make sure your shape tool is selected. Now this time you could see that the knots have totally changed from what we saw earlier because we have converted the shape to curve. Good. If I drag this, you could see a totally different shape this time. Now we have the option of applying different functions to this shape in creating different objects. To delete a node, you can simply double click on the node, this very node. When you double click on this, it deletes the node. When you double click, it deletes the node. If you want to add a node, you simply again double click, and then it adds a node to your object. And then it adds a node to your object. So for instance, I want to create a triangle using this particular shape, rectangle. So we want to use the shape tool to demonstrate how we can change this rectangle into a triangle. So you right click on it, convert to curve. Let's apply color to this. Black should be fine, right? Okay. Double click to add a node right here. Delete this node. Delete this node as well. Now you have a rectangle out of, you have a triangle out of a rectangle. A triangle out of a rectangle. So you could see how effective and powerful these tools are. If you get used to them, working becomes very easy. Working becomes very easy. So that is with the shape tool. When we click on that, we have other tools. We have like the smooth, the smear, the twirl, attract and repel, smudge and warping. They all perform different functions. All right. They all perform different functions. All right. Now the very next tool we have is the crop tool. What does a crop tool do? Simply as the name sounds, it crops out selected areas of a particular object or image. So I'm going to bring in an image so we demonstrate how the crop tool works. How the crop tool works. Now this is an image of a lady, and we want to have only the head part and leave the rest out. So how do we really do that? So with your crop tool selected, we double click and drag. Now the areas that have fallen within the frame, this very frame you've created, are what is going to remain after cropping out. Now after drawing your box, you can possibly adjust that by using this very coordinates. All right, you can use this coordinates to adjust that until you get the perfect aspects of the image you want to crop out. Now we have two options in actually cropping out the selected part. You can either double click, all right, or better still, after adjusting the coordinates to have the selected part fitted in the frame, go ahead and click on crop. Go ahead and click on crop. Now you can see we only have the selected parts which were within the frame being cropped out. That is how the crop tool actually works. Alright, that is how the crop tool actually works. Alright, the next tool we have is the zoom tool. The next tool we have is the zoom tool. Before this, I would like us to make some observation. Anytime a tool is selected, if you notice the property bar, there seem to be some changes happening. This is the pick tool currently. When I move to the shape tool, you could see that the property bar changes. From what I stated earlier, the property bar is basically an extension of the functions of the various tools we have on the toolbar. So anytime you select a tool, the property bar changes. It is just providing you additional functions you can do with the selected tool. Alright, very good. Now we have the zoom tool. How do we go about using the zoom tool? You can simply drag across a selected area and have your image zoomed in for you. Or come over here to the property bar and select zoom out. As you click more on that, it zooms out. It zooms out the page for you. As you zoom in, you could see the difference, right? So that is how the zoom tool actually works. It has an additional tool as well, which is the pan tool. This is basically for moving across the page, the design page. All right. Now the very next tool we have is a freehand tool. The very next tool we have is a freehand tool. The freehand tool allows us to sketchily draw. Now the reason why I said sketchily draw is that, for instance, you are trying to use a pencil to draw on a piece of paper. Now, with using a pencil, your hand in drawing on a piece of paper, you are not going to have the lines being very straight. That is just how the freehand tool works. So when I click on this and try drawing the shape of love, you could see that it doesn't really look perfect. Alright, it doesn't really look perfect. The freehand tool is basically like just drawing using a pencil, using your very own hand in drawing. Alright, it's just like using your very own hand in drawing. Now, after drawing shapes with the freehand tool, all these tools go hand in hand. They work together. Alright, they must be combined together in working on designs. After drawing this shape using the freehand tool, I can use the shape tool to properly adjust that. To properly adjust this. So I can create a node here, delete this node, this very line, convert it to a line. Alright. It was actually a curve. Create another node here, delete this, convert this curve to a line. Delete this very node, convert this curve to a line once again. Then delete this, convert this curve to a line. Now you can simply adjust this and you have all your lines looking perfectly straight. You could see how effective it is combining the tools in working. Alright, so that is basically how this works. tools work hand in hand. One helps the other helps another. That is how the tools work. Great. Now in the freehand tool, we have other tools like the 2-point line. Most of these tools, whenever I'm working, I don't really use them. It all depends on the convenience of the designer, the one you find convenient working with. All right, so we have the 2-point line. Well, it's probably like million times to none. I'm actually using this tool. So they have their various functions. Okay, what I normally use among these tools is the freehand and pen tool. The pen tool actually allows you to draw a perfectly straight line or a perfect curve. So if I click and drag and double click, it just draws a perfect line for me, very straight. Unlike the freehand tool, which draws more like a sketchy look of the object until I have used the shape tool in adjusting it. All right. Now the very next tool is the artistic media tool. Now this is one of the tools that I don't really work around with. But then as you drag, it just creates this artistic look for you. And you have the option in changing the style, the appearance actually. Okay, so as you click here, you could see more tools within that, more styles within that for you to actually go with. So that is how the artistic tool also works. Now the very next tool we have is called the rectangle tool. The rectangle tool in design or in CorelDraw is one of the most important tools. The reason why I'm saying it's one of the most important tools is that throughout my designing works, there has never been a time that I haven't used the rectangle tool. The reason is because most shapes would be created using the rectangle tool. Even starting work on your designs, even creating background, you need to use the rectangle tool. That is why, to me, it's seems as though the most important tool. Okay, it just helps me most of the time. Now you can use the rectangle tool, double click and drag, and you have your rectangle created. If you want to change this to a perfect square, after double clicking and dragging, you have the option of changing the page dimension. Sorry, the object dimensions, okay, the sizes. So you can make this 5. Okay, let's make this 50. And this 50 as well. Then press B. Alright, so this is what you are going to have. You could see how it looks. The size of the width and the height are all the same. That is how the rectangle tool works. That is how the rectangle tool works. You can apply color to this if you want. You can apply color to this if you want. Very good. Now we have the ellipse tool. The next tool is the ellipse tool. The ellipse tool helps us in drawing circles, okay, in drawing circles. So when you click on that, you can double click and drag to create your circle. Now, as you double click and drag, you could see that the width and the height of this particular circle aren't the same. But I doubt you want to create a circle which isn't perfect. Okay, so to get a perfect circle created, you hold down Control, double click and drag. You hold down Control, double click and drag. Now, most often you see images placed in circle or in some form, just in that round form. And you'll be wondering, how do people really go about this? It's just using the ellipse tool with your image. You right click on it, power click, point the arrow to the circle and click on it. You can edit that to adjust it, make it look perfectly fine within the frame of the circle. All right, just adjust that and boom, this is what you have. Okay, this is what you have. No need to actually be worried. Basically using the tools. Okay, you see this on most design works. On most design works with images placed in circles, images placed in rectangle, images placed in just an object, and you'll be wondering, how do people really go about this? It's just basically using what the tools, just like what we've done. So that is how to actually place objects, images in a circle. And to also create a perfect circle, you hold down Control, double click and drag. All right. Now the very next tool is the polygon tool. This is also another unique tool which I use often. When you click on that and hold down Control as you drag, you could see it creates a polygon of size 5. It creates a polygon of size 5. Now this created shape can actually be manipulated. This created shape can actually be manipulated. We can possibly change this to a star. One may be wondering, how do we really work on that? Remember, I stated that all these tools work hand in hand. And so, having this shape created, you simply click on the shape tool, select the object, then drag this very sides to get your star created, looking really, really nice. All right, just drag, get your star created. So you see, you can actually create a lot of shapes, a lot of different objects using the polygon tool. By just using your polygon tool. Now let's take a look at this shape as well. A very popular shape normally seen on certificates. Okay, normally seen on certificates. Now we have this option. Remember, every tool has its own property bar which provides you additional functions. As you click the arrow popping up, it increases the size of your polygon. Okay, it increases the size of your polygon. Now you go to the shape tool, just click and drag. All right. Now if you apply a color of this to this, see what we have. Looking very, very nice, right? Looking very, very nice. You can normally see this place somewhere, the bottom right here of certificates. It was just simply using what? The polygon tool, increasing the size and using the shape tool to work on that. So that is the function of the polygon tool. Now the next tool we have is the text tool. This is a tool that allows you to type in every text element, every text detail necessary in working on your design. It allows you in typing, changing font type, font size, applying color to text element in your design. So how does it work? With the text tool selected, you click anywhere you want on your workspace once and begin to type. See, it just works so incredibly. To change the font size or font type of this, you can simply highlight. All right, you highlight, you move to this drop down arrow on the property bar of the text tool. As you click on that, it brings up all the font types you have installed on your system, the default and downloaded fonts. So you simply just drag across until you find the one you are okay with. If you want to apply color as well, you highlight and simply click on the color. Now the reason why we are highlighting is because we are still on the text tool. But if you are on the pick tool and you want to apply color, you don't need to highlight again, because when you try highlighting everything, it means every item on your workspace is what is going to be highlighted. All right, so you simply just click on your text element and then apply your color to it. So that is how the text tool works. If you want to bold this, well, with this particular font, you can't actually bold. So I'm just going to go ahead with a different font. So we see how that works. So we have the bold option, the italic, we have underline as well. Then the alignment, horizontal alignment, center, left, right, full justify, false justify. All the alignment options are there for you to work with. Now, sometimes you can be done typing and you need to change the case. Probably you intended typing in caps, but then after typing, this is what you have in small letters, right? So you simply select your text, go to the menu bar, click on text, then click on change case. This allows you to provide or to choose from various options like title case, uppercase. When you click on OK, you could see the changes. All right, you could see the changes. So this is how the text tool actually works. All right. Now the next tool we have is called the parallel dimension tool. Well, most of these tools, as I stated, I normally don't use them. So we are just going to jump over that. If in the process of working on or designing and it becomes necessary to use any, you will get to know how they really work. But you can just play around with them. You know, you are trying to know how these tools work. So just play around with them. The next tool we have is the shadow tool. The shadow tool allows you to apply shadow to your object, just as the name sounds. Okay, you apply shadow to your object. So you can double click on this and drag down. So you could see shadow applying to your object. Now we have some default presets. We have this option. It gives you a preview. When you click on this, you could see it dragging to the very top. You can double click on this to adjust it where you want. We have various options to actually choose from. So that is how the shadow tool also works. Now the very next tool we have is called the transparency tool. What the transparency tool does is that It hides or reveals objects, or simply it determines the opacity of objects. Anytime you have an object on your workspace or an element and you want to either reduce the opacity or have it at full, we use the transparency tool. Or anytime you want to fade a particular aspect of an object, we use a transparency tool for that. Now let's see how it actually works. So I'm going to position this on top of this control page up to bring that up. Now we want to see this particular aspect of the star, okay? This very side, which is behind this object. So we use the transparency tool. As you click on it, this bar appears, which allows you to adjust the opacity. Now we can see what the aspect of the star which was behind the object. That is how the transparency tool works. It also allows you to apply different merging modes. Now with this, it's more of advanced. Okay, it's more of advanced. That is with the merging mode. So with time in our subsequent videos, we'll look at that. That is how the transparency tool works. If you want to fade a particular aspect of an object, you can double click on it and drag. Now the black hides and the white reveals. So you can see we have some aspect of this. Here is faded and here is still what? Being revealed. Now you can use the transparency tool in blending two objects together. So for instance, I've created this circle, light this very color, make a copy of this. To make a copy, you use shortcut Ctrl D, which is duplicate. Okay, then apply this color. Now you want these two objects to blend. So use the transparency to fade this part. And you could see the two objects being combined together. Alright, being blended together. That is how the transparency tool actually works. So it just allows you to blend, hide opacity, or increase the opacity of an object or image. Sometimes you can be working with an image and you want to fade some part. You simply use what? The transparency tool for that. See, as you drag, the black aspect hides and the white reveals. You could see what we have, right? Very good. The very next tool we have is called the color eyedropper tool. What this tool does is that it allows you to select color from a particular object and apply to a different object. Now, sometimes a client can give you specific colors, okay, or may provide you with an image that I want the color that has been used for this particular design or on this image. I want you to use this color for my design work. Now, it is not by magic that you can instantly tell the color codes of the color the client is requesting of you. So what you need to do is that you need to bring in the image into your workspace and use the color eyedropper tool in selecting the particular color the client is requesting. All right, and apply on the design work you are working on for your client. So you click on the color eyedropper tool. As you drag across, you could see that the color changes depending on where the color eyedropper is. So as I drag to the very black, here, you could see that the color there reflects in a box. So when I click on this, now I have the option of applying that very color to this object. Alright. If I use the color eyedropper to select this, I can apply that very color to this object. You see how it works? This object, as many objects as I want. That is just how a color eyedropper works. Now the very last tool we have is called the interactive fill tool. Interactive fill tool. This is one of the interesting tools that I use as well. Now what that does is that let's clear this workspace a bit. Everything looks clumsy, right? Yes, so the interactive fill tool allows you to apply multiple colors to one object. Is that understood? Multiple colors to one object. How does that really work? One may be wondering. So we are going to create an object using the ellipse tool, holding down Ctrl to get a perfect size. Then you click on the interactive fill tool, double click and drag. By default, it applies a color fill, two color fill of white and black. So to change this, you click on the box, then you click on this drop down arrow and adjust the color fill you want. Alright, and adjust the color fill you want. Then you click on the next box, click on this, then adjust the color fill you want. Alright. Okay. Now I have the option of also clicking on a box simply and clicking any color option here. Okay, click on a box, any color option. So this is what we have. So most people often use this to apply probably gold color effects, any color option. Alright. So you can double click, drag. Now to apply more than just two colors. Just like how we add nodes, you can double click in the middle or any point, then you add what? Another color option to your artwork. So to change this, you can apply red, can apply blue, can apply pink. You see, that is how what the interactive fill tool works. Alright, so that is all we need to know for the basics, getting to know how the software works, the tools, the various interface, the various parts of the Windows. This is part 1 of this tutorial actually. The part 2 will consist of creating basic shapes such as patterns, okay, to use in your design works. How to create logos from just shapes. How to create icons like Facebook icon, Instagram icon, Twitter. How to create all these from just using shapes. Thank you very much for watching. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share with your friends who have interest and passion in learning graphic designing. See you next time.